The stars disappeared one by one from the night sky above. Earth. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched through the main screen as something huge blocked out the light. Her crew worked at their stations in tents. Silence. They all knew what this meant. First contact was happening, and it did not look friendly. "Admiral, we're counting over 5,000 vessels," her sensor officer reported. His voice stayed calm, but Kate could see his hands shaking. 5,000 ships. Earth had maybe 300 that could fight, and most of those were old. The alien fleet hung in space like a metal cloud. Each ship was different from human designs. They were sharp and angular, built for war. The smallest was twice the size of Earth's biggest battleship. The largest was like a small moon made of weapons and armor. Kate turned to her communications officer. "Are they trying to talk to us?" "Nothing yet, Admiral. Just waiting." Down on Earth, President John Carter sat in the emergency bunker beneath the White House. Around him, the leaders of every nation watched the same images. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? Humanity had always wondered if we were alone. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. In a laboratory under Mount Cheyenne, Dr. Lisa Chun stared at her computer screens. She was one of Earth's best xenolinguists, someone who studied how alien languages might work. For 20 years, she had prepared for this moment. Now it was here, and she felt completely unprepared. "Lisa, are you getting anything?" Her assistant asked. "Their ships are sending signals to each other. Lots of them. But I can't crack the pattern yet. It's like nothing we imagined." Captain Jake Sullivan sat in his fighter craft, waiting for launch orders. Around him, 500 other pilots did the same. They were Earth's first line of defense. Jake had been a pilot for 15 years. He had trained for combat his whole adult life. But training to fight other humans was very different from this. His radio crackled. "All wings hold position. Do not launch. Repeat, do not launch." Jake understood. They didn't want to look aggressive. Maybe these aliens came in peace. Maybe the weapons on their ships were just for protection. He wanted to believe that. They all did. On Luna Base, Commander Ryan Torres watched Earth hanging in the black sky. The moon base was humanity's furthest permanent outpost. It had weapons, shields, and supplies for 1,000 people. Right now it felt as small and fragile as a paper boat in a storm. "Commander, I'm picking up energy spikes from the alien fleet," his tactical officer reported. "They're powering up something big." Then it happened. Every screen on Earth, every television, computer, phone, and display suddenly showed the same image. A being appeared, unlike anything from Earth. It was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through its body in patterns that hurt to look at. When it spoke, the words came in every Earth language at once. "Inhabitants of Earth," the being said. Its voice was cold and empty of feeling. "I am the hierarch of the hegemony. Your world has been chosen for inclusion in our empire. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact." Kate watched from her bridge. Her crew had gone completely still. On Earth, 8 billion people watched the same message. Parents held their children. Old people remembered wars from long ago. Young people who had never known real fear learned it now. The hierarch continued. "The hegemony rules 10,000 worlds. We have brought order to the chaos of the galaxy." Some joined willingly. Others resisted. Those who resisted no longer exist. Dr. Chun typed frantically, recording every word, every detail. The aliens' technology was incredible. To hijack every communication system on Earth at once should have been impossible. But they did it like it was nothing. "Your species shows promise," the hierarch said. "You have reached space. You have split the atom. You would make useful servants. Therefore, we offer you mercy. Surrender now, and you will live. Your culture will be preserved in our archives. Your children will. Serve the hegemony. This is generous. President Carter stood up in the bunker. Around him, world leaders started talking all at once. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some just stared at the screen in shock. The hierarch raised one crystalline hand. You have one rotation of your planet to decide. When your sun next sets on your capital, give us your answer. Choose wisely. No world has ever refused the hegemony and survived. Do not be the first to try. The transmission ended. Screens went back to normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. Admiral Morrison turned to her bridge crew. Battle stations. I want every weapon online. Get me a secure line to the President. Captain Sullivan's radio exploded with chatter. Pilots asking questions, ground control giving orders, confusion everywhere. He switched it off and sat in silence. One day to decide the fate of humanity. One day to choose between slavery and death. Dr. Chun looked at the data from the transmission. Hidden in the alien message were traces of other signals. Ghosts of communications from other worlds. She enhanced them, cleaned up the static, and what she found made her blood run cold. Thousands of voices, all saying the same thing in different languages. We surrender. Please have mercy. We surrender. Commander Torres started preparing Luna Base for siege. If Earth said no, the moon would be the first target. He had maybe 200 real soldiers and 800 civilians who knew how to hold a gun against 5,000 alien warships. As night fell across Earth, people reacted in different ways. Some prayed to gods they had forgotten. Some held their loved ones close. Some got drunk. Some pretended everything was fine. But everyone waited. The whole planet held its breath. In New York, crowds gathered in Times Square to watch the news. In London, Big Ben chimed while people stood silent in the streets. In Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, and every city on Earth, humanity faced its darkest hour together. Kate Morrison stood alone in her ready room, looking at pictures of her family, her husband, her 2 daughters. They were down there on that blue marble the aliens wanted to enslave. She had sworn an oath to protect Earth. That oath meant everything. The hours passed slowly. Scientists worked through the night, trying to understand alien technology. Military leaders planned for a war they couldn't win. Politicians argued about words that might save or doom them all. As dawn approached, President Carter met with his closest advisors. They had talked all night. They had considered every option. Surrender meant survival, but as slaves. Resistance meant death, but as free humans. The choice seemed impossible. But in the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. Humanity had not come so far, survived so much, and built such wonders just to kneel before tyrants from the stars. The answer had been clear from the moment the hierarch spoke. Earth would give its answer, and the galaxy would never be the same. The sun rose over Washington, D.C., as it had for millions of years. But this sunrise was different. This might be the last sunrise of free humanity. President John Carter stood before the Global Transmission Array in the rebuilt United Nations building. Behind him stood representatives from every nation on Earth. They had argued through the night, but in the end, they stood united. The transmission equipment had been modified by Dr. Lisa Chun and her team. They had studied the alien signal and found a way to broadcast that would reach not just the hegemony, but anyone else who might be listening. It was a risk. But everything was a risk now. Admiral Kate Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Defiance. Her fleet was in position around Earth. 300 ships against 5,000. If this went wrong, they would last maybe an hour. But they would make that hour count. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer said. Kate nodded. "Tell them to wait for the word. When it comes, we hit them with everything." Captain. Jake Sullivan sat in his fighter, surrounded by his squadron. They floated in space between Earth and the alien fleet. First to fight, first to die. He was strangely calm about it. His fear had burned away during the long night, leaving only determination. President Carter looked at the camera. The whole world was watching. More than that, if Dr. Chung was right, the whole galaxy was watching. He had practiced his speech 100 times. Now he threw it away. He would speak from the heart. "To the hegemony and all who would hear across the cosmos," Carter began. His voice was steady and strong. "You came to our world with threats. You showed us your power and demanded our surrender. You gave us 1 day to decide our fate. The hierarchs." Ship moved slightly. They were listening. "You told us that 10,000 worlds serve you, that those who resisted were destroyed. You offered us mercy if we kneel. You promised death if we stand." Carter paused. "We have made our choice." On Luna Base, Commander Ryan Torres gripped his rifle. His people were ready. They had spent the night turning the base into a fortress. It wouldn't stop the aliens for long, but every minute they fought was a minute Earth survived. "To the hegemony, we say this." President Carter's voice rose. "We are humanity. We are the children of Earth. We are the species that looked at the stars and dared to dream we could touch them. We split the atom. We cured diseases. We put footprints on our moon. We did not do these things by kneeling." The alien fleet began to move, weapons powered up. The hierarch appeared on a secondary screen, its crystal form pulsing with angry light. "And so," Carter continued, "our answer is this. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. We are humanity, and we will stand free. Or die free, but we will never, ever be slaves." The reaction was immediate. The hierarch's scream of rage could be heard on every frequency. How dare these primitives refuse? How dare they choose death over the honor of serving the hegemony? But something else happened too. Dr. Chun watched her screens light up with signals from across the galaxy. Hidden transmissions from conquered worlds. Whispers in the dark. They were listening to Earth's defiance, and they were stirring. "Admiral, they're moving to attack positions." Kate's tactical officer reported. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. You know what to do? For Earth, for humanity, for freedom. Engage." Space erupted into fire. Human ships, tiny compared to their enemies, threw themselves at the alien fleet. They knew they couldn't win, but winning wasn't the point anymore. The point was to show the galaxy that someone would fight. Captain Sullivan led his squadron straight at the nearest alien cruiser. Its weapons could vaporize them in seconds. But those seconds were what mattered. For Earth, for humanity, for freedom. He broadcast on all channels. His words echoed through space, picked up and repeated by every human ship. The aliens expected an organized retreat. They expected fear and chaos. Instead, they got something they had never seen before. Humans fought like madmen. They rammed larger ships. They overloaded their reactors to create bigger explosions. They sang war songs as they died. On Earth, people watched the battle on every screen. They saw their protectors dying in the dark. They saw explosions that lit up the sky. They saw heroes being born and dying in the same moment. And they did not despair. They got angry. In Moscow, civilians stormed military depots for weapons. In Beijing, factory workers started building missiles from whatever they could find. In New York, office workers prepared to turn skyscrapers into fortresses. If the aliens wanted Earth, they would have to take it one bloody meter at a time. Doctor. Chan made a discovery that changed everything. The hegemony's communication network used quantum entanglement to stay connected across the galaxy. It was meant to make their empire unbreakable, but it had a flaw. A message sent through it could not be stopped or deleted. She worked frantically, encoding a simple message with quantum markers. As human ships died above Earth, she uploaded it into an alien transmission relay. The message was just 7 words. Earth fights, Earth stands, Earth shows the way. The effect was immediate. On 1,000 conquered worlds, beings who had forgotten, freedom heard those words. The Vashti, enslaved for 500 years, looked up from their labor camps. The Morvik, who had not resisted in a millennium, remembered what it was like to hope. Others, species whose names Earth would never know, felt something stir in what passed for their hearts. Admiral Morrison watched her tactical display. Half her fleet was gone in the first 10 minutes, but they had hurt the enemy too. 17 alien ships burned in space. It wasn't much against 5,000, but it was 17 more than the hegemony had lost in centuries. Admiral, I'm picking up strange readings, her sensor officer said. Jump signatures at the edge of the system. Lots of them. Kate's heart sank. More hegemony ships. Earth's brave stand would end even sooner than she thought. But then the new ships opened fire on the hegemony fleet. These weren't reinforcements. They were rebels. The Hierarch's rage shook its command ship. Rebellion? Impossible. The subject races knew better. They had learned over millennia that resistance meant extinction. But they were here, fighting alongside the humans. The primitive world that should have surrendered in terror had done something unthinkable. It had given the galaxy hope. President Carter spoke again, his voice carrying across the stars. To all who would be free, we stand with you. To all who remember what it is to choose your own fate, fight with us. Today, tyranny learns that its greatest weakness is a single word. No. The battle for Earth had become something larger. It was no longer just humanity's fight. It was becoming the first battle in a war that would reshape the galaxy. The hegemony had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. But fear only worked when people had no hope. Earth had given them hope. And hope, as the Hierarch was learning, was more dangerous than any weapon. The Battle of Sol raged for 3 days. Commander Ryan Torres watched from Luna Base as humanity fought for its life. The space between Earth and Moon became a graveyard of broken ships. Human vessels floated alongside alien wreckage in a cloud of metal and frozen air, but Earth still stood. Commander, we've got incoming, his radar operator called out. 40 fighter-class vessels heading our way. Ryan checked his weapons. Luna Base had surprised everyone by lasting this long. The moon's low gravity let them launch projectiles that hit like hammers. Old mining equipment became weapons. Research lasers became death rays. All stations prepare to engage. Make them pay for every meter. On Earth, the fight had spread. To the surface, the hegemony sent dropships through the gaps in Earth's defenses. They expected to find a terrified population ready to surrender. Instead, they found 8 billion humans who had decided they would rather die on their feet than live on their knees out in Texas. A school teacher named Amy Rodriguez led her town's defense. She had never fired a gun before the invasion. Now she commanded a militia of farmers, shop owners, and teenagers. They turned their main street into a killing field. Alien soldiers, used to conquered populations that cowered in fear, walked into ambush after ambush. Remember, Amy told her people, they bleed. That means they can die. And if they can die, we can win. In Iowa, Bob Kim watched alien ships land in his cornfield. He had spent 70 years growing food on this land. His grandfather had farmed it before him. No alien was going to take it without a fight. He rigged his harvesting equipment with explosives and drove it straight into the landing zone. The explosion took out 3 enemy ships and showed every farmer in the region what was possible. Dr. Lisa Chun worked without sleep in her underground lab. The quantum message she had sent was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire, but she could do more. The hegemony's technology was advanced, but not perfect. Their shields had frequencies. Their communications had patterns. Their weapons had weaknesses. She broadcast her findings to anyone who could receive them. A farmer in France learned how to overload alien shields with microwave ovens. A factory worker in Japan discovered that industrial welding lasers could cut through alien armor. A child in Brazil figured out that the aliens' helmet displays could be jammed with toy remote controls. Humanity was learning, adapting, surviving. Admiral Kate Morrison commanded what was left of Earth's fleet from her damaged bridge. The USS Defiance lived up to its name, fighting on with half its systems offline. Around her, a mixed fleet of human and rebel alien ships continued the battle. Admiral, the Vashti commander, is requesting coordination for an attack run. Her communications officer reported. Kate looked at the tactical display. 6 months ago, the idea of fighting alongside aliens would have been science fiction. Now it was their only hope. Tell them we'll provide cover fire. All ships protect the Vashti bombers. The Vashti had been slaves for 5 centuries, but they remembered how to fight. Their ships were stolen, their weapons improvised, but their determination matched humanity's. Together, they punched through the hegemony lines and delivered devastating strikes to the enemy command ships. Captain Jake Sullivan should have been dead a dozen times over. His fighter was held together by determination and prayer. Half his squadron was gone, but he kept flying, kept fighting, kept broadcasting Earth's defiance to anyone who would listen. This is Captain Sullivan to any friendly forces. We've got a hole in their formation. Grid reference 7-7-9. Hit them now. A wave of Morvek fighters responded to his call. They flew in perfect formation, their ancestral battle songs mixing with human war cries on the radio. Together, they turned a small gap into a major breach. Enemy ships burned as the unlikely allies pressed their advantage. On the surface, Maria Garcia worked in a field hospital in California. She had been a nurse for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. Humans and aliens lay side by side, all bleeding, all in pain. She treated them equally. Enemy or ally, everyone who came through her doors got help. Why? A wounded hegemony soldier asked her. Its translator made its voice sound confused. We came to conquer you. Why do you help me? Maria bandaged its wounds. Because that's what humans do. We can be cruel, we can be violent, but we can also choose to be kind. That's what makes us free. The soldier said nothing more, but when hegemony forces attacked the hospital, it stood with the human defenders. Word spread. Other captured enemies saw how humans treated prisoners. They saw mercy from a species that should hate them. Some began to question why they fought for masters who showed no mercy at all. The hierarch watched the battle from its command ship. Nothing was going according to plan. The primitives should have been crushed in hours. Instead, they had lasted days. Worse, their resistance was spreading. Reports came in from across the empire. Slave revolts, sabotage, entire sectors in open rebellion. Destroy them all, the hierarch commanded. Every human, every rebel. Burn their worlds to ash. But its orders came too late. The quantum message had done its work. Earth fights. Earth stands. Earth shows the way. 7 words that had awakened. A galaxy. On 10,000 worlds, beings looked at their chains and decided they had worn them long enough. President John Carter spoke to Earth and the stars once more. His face showed 3 days without sleep, but his voice remained strong. To the free people of the galaxy, this is Earth. We fight on. We bleed with you. We stand with you. Together, we will break the chains or die trying. Luna Base shook under. Another bombardment. Commander Torres felt the floor buckle beneath him. They had held for 3 days, but they couldn't last much longer. All remaining personnel, prepare for final defense. It's been an honor. His people didn't run. They didn't hide. They stood at their posts and kept firing. When the base's fusion reactor started to overload, Torres didn't order an evacuation. He ordered his engineers to turn it into a weapon. If Luna Base was going to die, it would take as many enemies with it as possible. The explosion was visible from Earth. A new star bloomed where the moon base had been. But in its death, Luna Base had destroyed 40 enemy ships and damaged hundreds. More, Commander Ryan Torres and his 1,000 defenders entered history as heroes who showed the galaxy what human sacrifice meant. Admiral Morrison received reports from across the system. The casualty lists were staggering. Millions dead. Cities burning. Entire fleets wiped out. But humanity fought on. And they were no longer alone. More rebel ships arrived every hour. The hegemony's iron grip was breaking. Admiral, her sensor. Officer said quietly, "I'm detecting a massive jump signature. It's the Hierarch's personal fleet, 2,000 ships." Kate closed her eyes for a moment. They had fought so hard, inspired a galaxy to rise up. But against 2,000 fresh ships, what hope did they have? Then she opened her eyes and smiled. "All ships, all frequencies. This is Admiral Morrison. The enemy brings their best against us. Let's show them what happens when you corner humanity. All weapons free. For Earth. For freedom. For the galaxy." The final phase of the battle was about to begin. The arrival of the Hierarch's personal fleet should have ended everything. 2,000 of the hegemony's finest warships, each one a masterpiece of destruction. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, ready to crush Earth and every rebel who dared stand with humanity. But something unexpected happened. More jump signatures appeared. Then more, and more got ships poured into the Sol system from every corner of the galaxy. The Vashti brought their entire hidden fleet. The Morvek arrived with vessels thought destroyed centuries ago. The Kelani, the Thrix, the Yoran, dozens of species humanity had never heard of came to fight. They came in stolen ships, in ancient vessels hidden for generations, in transports hastily armed with mining lasers. They came because Earth had shown them something they had forgotten. Hope. Admiral. Kate Morrison stared at her tactical display in disbelief. "How many allied ships do we have now?" 3,000 and climbing, Admiral. New arrivals every minute. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hegemony faced an equal force. The Hierarch's rage could be felt across the psychic frequencies. Its perfect order was crumbling. Its absolute rule was being challenged. All because one small world had said no. Captain Jake Sullivan led what remained of his squadron toward the enemy flagship. His fighter was more patched than original parts. Now, he had been flying for 3 days straight. His body was exhausted, but his spirit soared. All wings, form up, or going for the big one. A mixed formation fell in behind him. Human pilots flew alongside Vashti raiders, Morvok warriors, and others whose names he couldn't pronounce. They didn't share a language, but they shared a purpose. The Hierarch's command ship was the key. Cut off the head, and the body would fall. On Earth, President John Carter coordinated with leaders both human and alien. The command bunker had become a galactic war room. Beings who had been enemies days ago now worked side by side. The Thrix fleet will hit their left flank. Admiral Morrison, can your ships support them? Already moving, Mr. President. We've got. Airback, Dr. Lisa Chon had made another breakthrough. The hegemony's ships used a synchronized field to coordinate their attacks. It made them fight as one massive organism. But that synchronization could be disrupted. She uploaded the frequency modulation to every allied ship. Hit them with this, and they'll have to fight individually. They've never had to do that before. The battle erupted across the solar system. It was no longer just Earth's fight. It was freedom against tyranny, hope against oppression, choice against slavery. Ships danced through space in deadly ballet. Weapons that could crack moons threw their fury into the dark. Heroes died by the thousands, but more took their place. Amy Rodriguez watched the sky burn above Texas. The battle in space lit up the night like fireworks. She had held her town for 3 days. Half her militia was dead or wounded, but they had not broken. Look up, she told her exhausted fighters. That's freedom being born. We're part of that. In the ruins of New York, people emerged from shelters to witness history. The sky was full of shooting stars that were dying ships. They sang old songs of defiance. They raised their fists to the burning sky. They would not go quietly into the night. The hierarch commanded its forces personally now. It had not done so in millennia. Why would it need to? The hegemony's might had been absolute. But now that might faced something it had never prepared for, an alliance of the desperate, fighting not for conquest, but for freedom. Concentrate. Fire on the human command ship, the hierarch ordered. Kill their admiral. Break their spirit. 100 hegemony vessels turned their weapons on the USS Defiance. Kate Morrison saw death coming. All hands, this is the admiral. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve with you. Launch all escape pods. Get our people out. Admiral, no one's leaving, her executive officer said. We started this. Together. We'll finish it together. The bridge crew nodded. They would not abandon their posts. Kate felt tears in her eyes, not from sadness, but from pride. This was humanity at its finest, and let's make it count. All weapons, full spread. If we're going down, we're taking them with us. The Defiance charged straight at the enemy formation. A lone battleship against 100. It should have been suicide. But as the first volley struck, something miraculous happened. Rebel ships threw themselves between the Defiance and its attackers. The Vashti commander spoke on an open channel. Earth showed us courage. Now we show Earth the same. Ships from 20 different species formed a living shield around humanity's flagship. They died by the dozen, but they did not yield. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The galaxy had learned from humanity's example. Sacrifice for others. Courage in the face of death. The choice to stand when kneeling would be easier. Captain Sullivan broke through the fighter screen around the hierarch's ship. His weapons were exhausted. His shields were gone. But his engines still worked. He opened a channel to everyone. This is Captain Jake Sullivan of Earth. I've got 1 move left. Watch me close. This is how we say goodbye to tyrants. He aimed his fighter at the hierarch's bridge and pushed his engines past their limits. The hegemony's finest pilots tried to stop him. Allied fighters cleared his path. In his final seconds, Jake thought of Earth, of blue skies and green fields, of children who would grow up free because people chose to fight. From Earth, with love, he said, and slammed into the command ship. The explosion tore through the hierarch's vessel. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull. The perfect crystalline being that had ruled through fear for 10,000 years felt something it had never experienced. Pain. Its ship tumbled through space, wounded and burning. Across the battle, hegemony forces faltered. Their synchronization shattered. For the first time in their history, they had to fight as individuals. And individuals could feel fear. They had spent so long as the hunters, they had forgotten what it was to be prey. President Carter spoke once more to the galaxy. To all who fight for freedom, press the attack. To all who serve tyranny, you have a choice. Surrender and be shown mercy, or stand with your masters and fall with them. Choose wisely. Choose quickly. Some hegemony ships began to power down their weapons. Their crews had heard how Earth treated prisoners. They had seen mercy from beings. They had tried to conquer. The choice between possible forgiveness and certain death was not hard. The tide had turned completely. What started as Earth's last stand had become the hegemony's rout. 10,000 years of absolute rule crumbled in hours. The hierarchs' remaining loyal forces retreated, leaving their dead to float in the ruins of their ambition. Admiral Morrison survived to see victory approaching. Her ship was barely functional. Most of her crew was wounded or dead, but Earth still stood. Humanity still stood. And they did not stand alone. To all allied forces, this is Admiral Morrison. Push them back. Make them run. Today, the galaxy learns that freedom is worth any price. The Battle of Sol was entering its final phase, but it was no longer just a battle. It was the birth of something new, an alliance forged in fire, a galaxy learning to hope again, and at its heart, a small, blue world that had dared to say no to tyranny. The words that shook the stars had become actions that would reshape them forever. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. Earth looked different now. The scars of war marked every continent. Cities had been rebuilt with alien technology. Human and non-human children played together in parks that had been battlefields. The galaxy itself had changed even more. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Unity, a ship built with knowledge from 50 different species. Her crew was no longer just human. Vashti navigators worked alongside human pilots. Morvek engineers maintained systems designed by Kelani scientists. What had started as an alliance of desperation had become something beautiful. Admiral Weir, approaching the Concord station, her mixed-species bridge crew reported. Kate nodded. The Concord was the new galactic government's capital. Built in neutral space, it was a symbol of what free peoples could accomplish together. Today would be special. Today, the treaty would be signed that would ensure the hegemony could never rise again. President John Carter had aged years and months, but his eyes were bright with hope. He walked through the Concord's halls, marveling at the sight. Beings from across the galaxy moved freely, talked freely, chose freely. Many stopped to shake his hand or offer their species' gesture of respect. Humanity had become heroes to the galaxy, but Carter knew the truth. They had simply been the spark. The fire had always been there, waiting. Dr. Lisa Chun had found her life's work expanding beyond her dreams. She now led the Galactic Communication Project, finding ways for all species to share knowledge. Her breakthrough with quantum messaging had not just spread rebellion. It had created the foundation for a true galactic community. Dr. Chun, a Vashti scientist, approached her. The translation matrices you designed are remarkable. My people have words we thought we would never be able to share with others. Thank you. Lisa smiled. This was why they had fought. Not just for survival, but for moments like this. For connection. For understanding. For the choice to build something. Better together. In the memorial section of the Concord, millions of names were etched in crystal. Every being who had died in the fight for freedom, from every world, was remembered. Captain Jake Sullivan's name stood among them, along with Commander Ryan Torres and so many others. Their sacrifice had meaning now. A young human girl named Sophie stood with her Morvek friend GTKNI, reading the names. Sophie's mother, Amy Rodriguez, had survived the war and now served as Earth's ambassador to the Morvok. "My teacher says they were heroes," Sophie said. "Mine too," Jaytini replied, through its translator. "My clutch parent says they showed us we could be heroes too." The treaty signing took place in the Great Assembly. Representatives from every free world gathered. The document was simple but powerful. No species would rule over another. All beings had the right to choose their path. Disputes would be settled by discussion, not destruction. It was idealistic, perhaps naive, but it was a start. The hierarch had survived the battle, retreating to the hegemony's core worlds, but its empire was broken. Most of its forces had surrendered or defected. The worlds it had ruled through fear now stood guard against its return. The perfect order it had imposed for 10,000 years was gone, replaced by the chaos of freedom. As President Carter signed for Earth, he spoke to the Assembly. 6 months ago, Earth stood alone against tyranny. Today, we stand with friends we could never have imagined. We've learned that courage is contagious, that hope spreads faster than fear, that beings who stand together cannot be broken. The Vashti Eldest signed next, its crystalline manipulators steady despite its age. "For 500 years, my people forgot we had a choice. Earth reminded us. The humans say they're young species, perhaps, but sometimes it takes young eyes to see that chains are not permanent." One by one, representatives added their marks. Some used appendages, some used energy fields, some used technology's humanity. Still didn't understand, but all chose freely. That was what mattered. Admiral Morrison watched from the observation deck as trade ships departed the Concorde. Where once the hegemony's warships had enforced silence, now vessels carried goods, ideas, and hope between worlds. The galaxy was noisy with freedom. It was chaotic. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. On Earth, Bob Kim had returned to his farm in Iowa, but now he grew more than corn. Alien crops that could feed a family for months on a single harvest. Techniques shared by beings who had farmed under different suns. His land, once threatened by conquest, now helped feed the galaxy. Maria Garcia had expanded her hospital in California. Human and alien medical knowledge combined to cure diseases that had plagued species for millennia. She trained doctors from 20 worlds. "Healing has no species," she told her students. "Pain is universal. So is compassion." The younger generation grew up in a galaxy transformed. They learned mathematics from the Kelani, philosophy from the Thrix, and art from species whose names required 3 tongues to pronounce. But they also taught. Human music spread across the stars. Human stories of standing against impossible. Odds became legends on distant worlds. Not everything was perfect. Some hegemony loyalists still caused trouble. Some species struggled to work together after millennia of separation. Democracy was messier than tyranny. Freedom was harder than slavery. But no one wanted to go back. Dr. Chun received a message. That made her heart race. Deep space monitors had detected something at the edge of known space. More civilizations. More species. The galaxy was bigger than even the hegemony had known. "Admiral Morrison, President Carter, you need to see this." The images showed massive structures, ships of unknown design, signals in languages no one recognized. The universe held more mysteries, more potential friends, more possible threats. But humanity and its allies would face them together. "Should we send a message?" Someone asked. Carter smiled. "Yes, tell them who we are. Tell them we choose friendship, but will defend our freedom. Tell them the galaxy stands united." As the message went out, Kate Morrison thought about how far they had come. From a species that barely touched space to leaders of a galactic alliance. From facing extinction to offering hope. All because they had refused to kneel. The hierarch, isolated on its dying throne world, received reports of the galaxy thriving without its rule. Its perfect crystal form was cracked now, damaged by Jake Sullivan's sacrifice. It had ruled through fear for so long, it couldn't understand what had happened. How had primitives destroyed everything? But the answer was simple. The hegemony had built its empire on the belief that beings would always choose survival over freedom. They had been wrong. Given hope, given a chance, given an example, people would choose to stand. Earth had proven that. Years passed. The alliance grew stronger. Former slave worlds became centers of learning. Trade routes connected civilizations that had been separated for millennia. Children who had been born during the war grew up in peace. The galaxy healed. Earth itself became a symbol. Pilgrims from across the stars came to see the world that had said no. They walked where battles had been fought. They met humans who had survived the invasion. They learned that heroism wasn't about being unafraid. It was about being afraid and standing anyway. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of Sol, a celebration was held on Earth. Beings from every free world attended. Music from 100 cultures filled the air. Food from 1,000 worlds covered tables that stretched for miles. But the highlight was simple. A human child and a Vashti youngling stood together and read the words that had started it all. Earth fights. Earth stands. Earth shows the way. Then they added new words written together. Now we all stand. Now we all choose. Now we are free. Admiral Morrison, older now but still serving, raised a toast to those who fell, to those who stood, to those who will stand. The stars no longer shake with our defiance. They sing with our freedom. President Carter, retired but still respected, added his own words. We learned something important. Tyranny seems invincible until the moment it isn't. Freedom seems impossible until the moment it happens. Never forget that. Never let the galaxy forget. As the celebration continued into the night, children of different species played together under the stars. Stars that had once brought death now brought visitors and friends. The word that had shaken those stars, no, had become the foundation of yes. Yes to choice. Yes to freedom. Yes to a future written by free hands. The galaxy would face new challenges. New threats would emerge. Disagreements would arise. That was the price of freedom. But whatever came, they would face it together. The words that shook the stars had created something stronger than any empire. They had created hope. And hope, as the galaxy had learned, could change everything.